Chapter 4 of the Maltese Falcon by Dashiell Hammett. This Librivox recording is in the public domain. Chapter 4 The Black Bird. Miss Wonderly, in a belted green crepe silk dress, opened the door of apartment 1001 at the Coronet. Her face was flushed. Her dark red hair, parted on the left side, swept back in loose waves over her right temple, was somewhat tousled. Spade took off his hat and said, "Good morning." His smile brought a fainter smile to her face. Her eyes, of blue that was almost violet, did not lose their troubled look. She lowered her head and said in a hushed, timid voice, "Come in, Mr. Spade." She led him past the open kitchen, bathroom, and bedroom doors into a cream and red living room, apologizing for its confusion. "Everything is upside down. I haven't even finished unpacking." She laid his hat on a table and sat down on a walnut settee. He sat on a brocaded oval-backed chair facing her. She looked at her fingers, working them together, and said, "Mr. Spade, I've a terrible, terrible confession to make." Spade smiled a polite smile, which she did not raise her eyes to see, and said nothing. That story I told you yesterday was all a story," she stammered, and looked up at him now with miserable, frightened eyes. "Oh, that," Spade said lightly. "We didn't exactly believe your story." Then perplexity was added to the misery and fright in her eyes. "We believed your $200. "You mean—" She seemed to have no idea of what he meant. "I mean that you paid us more than if you'd been telling the truth," he explained blandly, "and enough more to make it all right." Her eyes lighted up suddenly. She lifted herself a few inches from the settee, settled down again, smoothed her skirt, leaned forward, and spoke eagerly. "And even now you'd be willing to—" Spade stopped her with a palm-up motion of one hand. The upper part of his face frowned, the lower part smiled. "That depends," he said. "The hell of it is, miss, is your name Wonderly or LeBlanc?" She blushed and murmured, "It's O'Shaughnessy, Bridget O'Shaughnessy." "The hell of it is, Miss O'Shaughnessy, that a couple of murders," she winced, "coming together like this, get everybody stirred up, make the police think they can go the limit, make everything and everybody hard to handle, and expensive. It's not—" He stopped talking because she had stopped listening and was impatiently waiting for him to finish. "Mr. Spade, tell me the truth." Her voice quivered on the verge of hysteria. Her face had become haggard around desperate eyes. "Am I to blame for last night?" Spade shook his head. "Not unless there are things I don't know about," he said. "You warned us that Thursby was dangerous. Of course, you did lie to us about your sister and all, but that doesn't count. We didn't believe you." He shrugged his sloping shoulders. "I wouldn't say it looked like your fault." She said, "Thank you," very softly, and then moved her head from side to side. "But I'll always blame myself." She put a hand to her throat. "Mr. Archer was so alive yesterday afternoon, so solid and hearty, and—" "Stop it," Slade commanded. "He knew what he was doing. They're the chances we take." Was he married?" "Yes, with 10,000 insurance, no children, and a wife who didn't like him." "Oh, please don't," she whispered. Spade shrugged again. "That's the way it was." He glanced at the watch on his wrist and moved from his chair to the settee beside her. "There's no time for worrying about that now." His voice was amiable but firm. "Out there, a flock of policemen and reporters and assistant district attorneys are running around with their noses to the ground. What do you want to do?" "I want you to save me from all of it," she said in a thin, tremulous voice. She put a hand timidly on his forearm. "Mr. Spade, do they know about me?" "Not yet. I wanted to see you first." What What would they think if they knew about the way I came to you, with those lies?" "That wouldn't mean anything to the police except guilt. That's why I've been stalling them till I could see you. I thought maybe we wouldn't have to let them know at all. We ought to be able to fake a story that will rock them to sleep if necessary." "Mr. Spade, you don't think I had anything to do with the murders, do you?" He grinned at her and said, "I forgot to ask you that. Did you?" "No." "That's good. Now, what are we going to tell the police?" She squirmed on her end of the settee, and her eyes wavered between heavy lashes, as if trying and failing to free their gaze from his. She seemed smaller and very young and oppressed. "Must they know about me at all?" she asked. "I think I'd rather die than that, Mr. Spade. I can't explain now, but can't you somehow manage so that you can shield me from them altogether, so I won't have to answer their questions? I couldn't stand being questioned, Mr. Spade. I would rather die. Can't you?" "Maybe," he said, "but I'll have to know what it's all about." She went down on her knees at his knees. She held her face up to him. Her face was wan, taut, and fearful over taut clasped hands. "I haven't lived a good life," she cried. "I'm bad, worse than you could know, but I'm not all bad. Look at me, Mr. Spade. You know I'm not all bad, don't you? You can see that, can't you? Then can't you trust me a little? I'm so alone and afraid, and I've got nobody to help me if you won't help me. I know I've no right to ask you to trust me if I won't trust you. I do trust you, but I can't tell you. I can't tell you now. Later I will, when I can. I'm afraid, Mr. Spade. I'm afraid of trusting you. I don't mean that. I do trust you, but I trusted Floyd, and I've nobody else, Mr. Spade. You can save me. You've said you can save me. If I hadn't believed you can save me, I would have run away today instead of sending for you. If I thought anybody else could save me, would I be down on my knees to you? I know this isn't fair of me, but be generous, Mr. Spade. Don't ask me to be fair. You're strong, you're resourceful, you're brave. You can spare me some of that strength and resourcefulness and courage, surely. Help me, Mr. Spade. Help me, because I need help so badly, and because, if you don't, where will I find anyone who can, however willing? Help me. I've no right to ask you to help me blindly, but I do ask you. Be generous, Mr. Spade. You can save me. You can. Won't you?" Spade, who had held his breath throughout much of this speech, now emptied his lungs with a long sighing exhalation between pursed lips and said, "You won't need much of anybody's help. You're good. You're very good. It's chiefly your eyes, I think, and that throaty sob you get into your voice when you say things like, 'Be generous, Mr. Spade.'" She jumped up on her feet. Her face crimsoned painfully, but she held her head erect and she looked Spade straight in the eyes. "I deserve that," she said. "I deserve it, but, oh, I did want your help so much, and I do want it so much. And the lie was in the way I said it, Mr. Spade, and hardly at all in what I said." She turned away from him, no longer holding herself erect. "It's my own fault that you can't believe me now." Spade's face reddened, and he looked down at the floor, muttering, "Now you are dangerous." Bridget O'Shaughnessy went to the table and got his hat. She came back and stood in front of him, holding the hat, not offering it to him, but holding it for him to take if he wished. Her face was white and thin. Spade looked at his hat and asked, "What happened last night?" "Floyd came to the hotel at 9 o'clock, and we went out for a walk. I suggested that so Mr. Archer could see him. We stopped at a restaurant in Geary Street, I think it was, for supper and to dance, and got back to the hotel at about 12:30. Floyd left me at the door, and I stood inside and watched Mr. Archer follow him down the street on the other side." "Down? You mean toward Market Street?" "Yes." Do you know what they be doing in the neighborhood of Bush and Stockton, where Archer was shot?" "Isn't that near where Floyd lived?" "No. It would be a dozen blocks out of his way if he was going from your hotel to his. Well, what did you do after they left?" "I went to bed. And this morning, when I went out for breakfast, I saw the headlines in the paper and read about both of them being killed. Then I went up to Union Square, where I'd seen automobiles for hire, and got one and went to my hotel for my luggage. After I found my room had been searched yesterday, I knew I would have to move, and I'd found this place yesterday afternoon. So I came up here and then phoned your office." "Your room at the St. Mark was searched?" he asked. "Yes, while I was in your office." She bit her lip. "I didn't mean to tell you that." "You mean by that I'm not to question you about it?" She nodded timidly. He frowned. She moved his hat a little in her hands. He laughed impatiently and said, "Stop waving my hat in my face. Haven't I promised to do what I can?" She smiled contritely, returned the hat to the table, and sat beside him on the settee again. He said, "As for trusting you blindly, I've got nothing against that, except that I won't be able to do much if I haven't some idea of what's going on. For instance, I've got to know something about your Floyd Thursby." "I met him in the Orient." She spoke slowly, looking down at a pointed finger that traced 8s on the seat of the settee between them. "We came here together from Hong Kong last week. He had promised to help me. He took advantage of my helplessness and dependence on him to betray me." "Betray you? How?" She shook her head and said nothing. Spade frowned impatiently and asked, "Why did you want him shadowed?" "I wanted to know how far he had gone. He wouldn't even tell me where he was staying. I wanted to find out what he was doing, who he was meeting, things like that." "Did he kill Archer?" She looked up at him, surprised. "Yes, certainly," she said. "He had a Luger in a shoulder holster. Archer wasn't shot with a Luger." "He had a revolver in his overcoat pocket," she said. "You saw it?" "Oh, I've seen it often. I know he always carried it there. I didn't see it last night, but I know he never wore an overcoat without it." "Why all the guns?" "He lived by them. There was a story in Hong Kong that he had come out there to the Orient as bodyguard to a gambler who had had to leave the States, and that the gambler had since disappeared. They said Floyd knew about his disappearance. I don't know. I do know that he always went heavily armed, and that he never went to sleep without covering the floor around his bed with crumpled newspapers, so nobody could come silently into his room." "You picked a nice sort of playmate." "Only that sort could have helped me," she said simply, "if he had been loyal." "Yes, if." Spade pinched his lower lip between finger and thumb and looked gloomily at her. The vertical creases over his nose deepened, drawing his brows together. "How bad a hole are you actually in?" "As bad," she said, "as could be." "Physical danger?" "I'm not heroic. I don't think there's anything worse than death." "Then it's that?" "It's that as surely as we're sitting here." She shivered. "Unless you help me." He took his fingers away from his mouth and ran them through his hair. "I'm not Christ," he said irritably. "I can't work miracles out of thin air." He looked at his watch. "The day's going, and you've given me nothing to work with. Who killed Thursby?" She put a crumpled handkerchief to her mouth and said, "I don't know," through it. "Your enemies or his?" "I don't know. His, I hope, but I'm afraid I don't know." "How was he supposed to be helping you? Why did you bring him here from Hong Kong?" She looked at him with frightened eyes and shook her head in silence. Her face was haggard and pitifully stubborn. Spade stood up, thrust his hands into his jacket pockets, and scowled down at her. "This is hopeless," he said savagely. "I can't do anything for you. I don't know what you want done. I don't even know if you know what you want." She hung her head and wept. He made a growling animal noise in his throat and went to the table for his hat. "You won't," she begged in a small, choked voice, not looking up, "go to the police?" "Go to them!" he exclaimed, his voice loud with rage. "They've been running me ragged since 4 o'clock this morning. I've made myself God knows how much trouble standing them off. For what? For some crazy notion that I could help you? I can't. I won't try." He put his hat on his head and pulled it down tight. "Go to them! All I've got to do is stand still and they'll be swarming all over me. Well, now I'll tell them what I know, and you'll have to take your chances." She rose from the settee and held herself straight in front of him, though her knees were trembling, and she held her white, panic-stricken face up, though she couldn't hold the twitching muscles of mouth and chin still. She said, "You've been patient. You've tried to help me. It is hopeless and useless, I suppose." She stretched out her right hand. "I thank you for what you've tried to do. I'll have to take my chances." Spade made the growling animal noise in his throat again and sat down on the settee. "How much money have you got?" he asked. The question startled her. Then she bit her lip and answered reluctantly, "I've about $500 left." "Give it to me." She hesitated, looking timidly at him. He made angry gestures with eyebrows, mouth, hands, and shoulders. She went to her bedroom, returning almost immediately with a thin sheaf of paper money in her hand. He took the money from her, counted it, and said, "There's only 400 here." "I had to keep some to live on," she explained meekly, putting a hand to her breast. "Can't you get any more?" "No." "You must have something you can raise money on," he insisted. "I've some rings, a little jewelry." "You'll have to hock them," he said, and held out his hand. "The Remedial's the best place, Mission and Fifth." She bit her lip, looking pleadingly at him. His yellow-gray eyes were hard and implacable. Slowly she put her hand inside the neck of her green dress, brought out a slender roll of bills, and put them in his waiting hand. He smoothed the bills out and counted them. 4 20s, 4 10s, and a 5. He returned 2 of the 10s and the 5 to her. The others he put in his pocket. Then he stood up and said, "I'm going out and see what I can do for you. I'll be back as soon as I can, with the best news I can manage. I'll ring 4 times, long, short, so you know it's me. You needn't go to the door with me. I can let myself out." He left her standing in the middle of the room, looking after him with dazed blue eyes. Spade went into a reception room whose door bore the legend, "Wise American and Wise." The red-haired girl at the switchboard said, "Oh, hello, Mr. Spade." "Hello, darling," he replied. "Is Sid in?" He stood beside her with a hand on her plump shoulder while she manipulated a plug and spoke into the mouthpiece. "Mr. Spade to see you, Mr. Wise." She looked up at Spade. "Go right in." He squeezed her shoulder by way of acknowledgment, crossed the reception room to a dully lighted inner corridor, and passed down the corridor to a frosted door at its far end. He opened the door and went into an office, where a small, olive-skinned man with a tired oval face under thin dark hair dotted with dandruff sat behind an immense desk on which bales of paper were heaped. The small man waved a cold cigar stub at Spade and said, "Push a chair around. So, Miles got his last night." Neither his tired face nor his rather shrill voice held any emotion. "Uh-huh, that's what I came in about." Spade frowned and cleared his throat. "I think I'm going to have to tell a coroner to go to hell, Sid. Can I hide behind the sanctity of my client's identity and secrets and whatnot, like a priest or a lawyer?" Sid Wise lifted his shoulders and lowered the ends of his mouth. "Why not?" he said. "An inquest is not a court trial. You can try, anyway. You've gotten away with more than that before now." "I know, but Dundee's getting snotty, and it's a little bit thick this time. Get your hat, Sid, and we'll go see the right people. I want to be safe." Sid Wise looked at the mass of papers on his desk and groaned, but he got up from his chair and went to the closet by the window. "You're a son of a gun, Sammy. he said as he took his hat from its hook. Spade returned to his office at 5 that evening. Effie Perrine was sitting at his desk reading Time. Spade sat on the desk and asked, "Anything stirring?" "Not here. You look like you'd swallowed the canary." Spade grinned contentedly. "I think we've got a future. I always had an idea that if Miles would go off and die somewhere, we'd stand a better chance of thriving. Will you take care of sending flowers for me?" "I did." "You're an invaluable angel. How's your woman's intuition today?" "Why?" "What do you think of Wonderly?" "I'm for her," the girl said without hesitation. "She's got too many names, Wonderly, LeBlanc, and she says the right one's O'Shaughnessy." "I don't care if she's got all the names in the phone book. That girl is all right, and you know it." "I wonder." Spade blinked sleepily at Effie Perrine. Then he chuckled. "Anyway, she's given up $700 in 2 days, and that's all right." Effie Perrine sat up straight and said, "Sam, if that girl's in trouble, and you let her down or take advantage of it to bleed her, I'll never forgive you, never have any respect for you as long as I live." Spade smiled unnaturally. Then he frowned. The frown also was unnatural. He opened his mouth to speak, but the sound of someone coming in at the corridor door stopped him. Effie Perrine rose and went into the outer office. Spade took off his hat and sat in his chair. The girl returned with a card, Mr. Joel Cairo. "This guy is queer," she said. "In with him then, darling," said Spade. Mr. Joel Cairo was a small-boned dark man of medium height. His hair was black and smooth and very glossy. His features were levantine. A square-cut ruby, its sides paralleled by 4 baguette diamonds, gleamed against the deep green of his cravat. His black coat, cut tight to narrow shoulders, flared a little over slightly plump hips. His trousers fit his round legs more snugly than was the current fashion. The uppers of his patent leather shoes were hidden by fawn spats. He held a black derby hat in a chamois-gloved hand and came toward Spade with short, mincing, bobbing steps. The fragrance of chypre came with him. Spade inclined his head at his visitor and then at a chair, saying, "Sit down, Mr. Cairo." Cairo bowed elaborately over his hat, said, "I thank you," in a high-pitched, thin voice, and sat down. He sat down primly, crossing his ankles, placing his hat on his knees, and began to draw off his yellow gloves. Spade rocked back in his chair and asked, "Now, what can I do for you, Mr. Cairo?" The amiable negligence of his tone, his motion in the chair, were precisely as they had been when he had addressed the same question to Bridget O'Shaughnessy on the previous day. Cairo turned his hat over, dropped his gloves into it, and placed it bottom up on the corner of the desk nearest him. Diamonds twinkled on the 2nd and 4th fingers of his left hand, a ruby that matched the one in his tie even to the surrounding diamonds on the 3rd finger of his right hand. His hands were soft and well cared for. Though they were not large, their flaccid bluntness made them seem clumsy. He rubbed his palms together and said over the whispering sound they made, "May a stranger offer his condolences for your partner's unfortunate death?" "Thanks." Cairo bowed. "May I ask, Mr. Spade, if there was, as the newspapers inferred, a certain, relationship between that unfortunate happening and the death a little later of the man Thursby?" Spade said nothing in a blank-faced, definite way. Cairo rose and bowed. "I beg your pardon." He sat down and placed his hands side by side, palms down, on the corner of the desk. "More than idle curiosity made me ask that, Mr. Spade. I am trying to recover an, ornament that has been mislaid. I hoped, you could assist me." Spade nodded with eyebrows lifted to indicate attentiveness. "The ornament is a statuette," Cairo went on, selecting and mouthing his words carefully. "The black figure of a bird." Spade nodded again, with courteous interest. "I am prepared to pay, on behalf of the figure's rightful owner, the sum of $5,000 for its recovery." Cairo raised one hand from the desk and touched a spot in the air with the broad-nailed tip of an ugly white forefinger. "I am prepared to promise that, what is the phrase? No questions will be asked." He put his hand on the desk beside the other and smiled blandly over them at the private detective. "$5,000 is a lot of money," Spade commented, looking meditatively at Cairo. "It—" Fingers drummed lightly on the door. When Spade had called, "Come in," the door opened far enough to admit Effie Perrine's head and shoulders. She had put on a small dark felt hat and a dark coat with a gray fur collar. "Is there anything else, Mr. Spade?" she asked. "No. Good night. Lock the door when you go, will you?" "Good night," she said, and disappeared behind the closing door. Spade turned his chair to face Cairo again, saying, "It interests me some." The sound of the corridor door closing behind Effie Perrine came to them. Cairo smiled and took a short, compact, flat black pistol out of an inner pocket. "You will please," he said, "clasp your hands together at the back of your neck." End of Chapter 4.